about 20 years ago, the Montana Bowhunters Association agreed that the disabled community in Montana had some legitimate concerns and some points that needed to be addressed. They needed to have an opportunity to participate also like able-bodied archers. With that in mind, they asked Fish, Wildlife and Parks to work with them in a constituency group consisting of the archery community, the general hunting public, the disabled community, and the agency to come up with recommendations to address that issue. That was a very productive session, and out of that came the recommendation that the Commission adopt a regulation that allowed permits to modify archery equipment, existing archery equipment, with the understanding that the MBA would work with those disabled constituents on a matrix that identified what equipment was legal and the modifications that were legal. They took that to the Commission, and the Commission agreed that that was a better option than the crossbow. At that time, the disabled community was comfortable, at least those that we had worked with were comfortable. Following that, though, there were some challenges, and those challengers thought that this could potentially be a violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act in that they didn't have equal opportunity. With that in mind, the department requested from the Civil Rights Division of the federal government, the Department of Interior, a solicitor's opinion as to whether or not Montana's seasons and equipment in the archery-only season did satisfy the American with Disabilities Act. And they said yes. Opportunities were reasonable and accommodations had been made, so there was no problem not allowing crossbows in the archery-only season. That wasn't the end of the discussion. There were others after that said, no, anyone ought to be able to hunt with crossbows in the archery-only season. That was another discussion that had lots of public input, and ultimately the decision was made that no, to this point crossbows should not be allowed, and the reason being, elk in particular, bull elk, are very vulnerable during the rut, and the Commission was concerned that if you get too liberal with equipment, with technology, you might have to start restricting what has been a very special 6 weeks archery season in Montana. With that in mind, they said, we'll stick with the permit to modify archery equipment, and for the time being, we're very comfortable that all those interests have been satisfied.
The number one reasons why crossbows should not be allowed in the present archery seasons is that they are highly effective and double the range of equipment now used, very comparable to a .30-30 rifle. Remember, bow hunting is a close-range sport. Crossbows for the handicapped is merely a disguise to further its use by anyone. The Montana Bowhunters Association has led the way in helping handicapped hunters being able to hunt. The crossbow will forever change archery seasons that have been a giant success in Montana. If there is any handicapped bow hunter who wants to bow hunt Montana, they have every opportunity right now.
In Ohio, Wisconsin, and Wyoming, those states that have allowed crossbows into their bow seasons have really seen their bow seasons degrade to a great deal. Harvests are way up by folks using crossbows, and bow hunters are switching to crossbows all instead of using their bows. It's just human nature to use whatever's easier. But this clearly isn't the intent of bow seasons. And what you're seeing are states like Wyoming already considering removing crossbows from bow and arrows.